committed to turn to Dharma at all times, instead of anything, particularly our childish, angry, righteous reaction. And as if you have to say something, as you have to write something, as you have to, like that, you just empty those thoughts, and you don't leave more carbon footprints when you take the refuge. O zanje jadan zaje jana la janjo bado dane jaze dage janzo jebe zana manje dola benja zanje do ba jo in the Buddha Dharma Sangha aide refuge laidem ba jo jewe handa la ajaris Buddha to aid beings in the Buddha Dharma Sangha aide vigila laidem bhava jewe handala me are Buddha do with the refuge, we make a commitment, to renew our commitment to practice loving kindness as the best and only response to every sentient being. Practice loving kindness. Do what you can do to make them temporarily calmed or agreeable or happy. It's good for you to do that. When you practice loving kindness, then you will see their situation more clearly, and then you will develop even more compassion when you discover their sufferings and their difficulties for their own delusion and karmic habits. And your compassion will greatly empower you to relieve your own suffering as well as theirs. And this will give you a lasting cause to have joy, to have lived the life, made your day. If you practice these two each day, you're joyful, you have no regret. You don't feel bad of your reaction, because it wasn't a bad reaction. It was loving kindness and compassion. And you can't complain about those two. So you have joyful. And so therefore you're always able to stay in equanimity when there are things you can't handle, because they will change themselves before you have to worry too much. There is no problem that exists out there except in your own thought. And when you don't worry this way or that way, anxious, and it's that not there. It's just like the equanimity. So to reflect on, to renew the commitment to practice these four, we do the four immeasurable prayers. May all beings have happiness, and the cause of happiness, may they be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering, may they never part from the happiness, then no suffering, may they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know a power for happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. Semju Damju Deva Dan Deve Judan Dembara Juju Dunga Dan Dunga Judan Davara Juju Dunga Mebe Deva Dan Medavaj Nire Jada Nidan Java Dai Nyola Neb Juroj. Now we recite the short Heart Sutra mantra. Really means it is the mantra that surpasses other mantra. It doesn't mean you have to recite it. Of course you can recite it. It's better if you knew the emptiness of things. It's a mantra that surpasses other mantra. Other mantra requires reciting and so on. This mantra is not a recitation necessarily. This mantra is doing and emptying your mind of things. And see the lack of inherent, permanent, truly existing. The problem is. Sure, there are problems, but where are the problem? By the time you look at it, it's not the same. Why? It's impermanent. When you change your perspective, the problem is not there. So that means form is emptiness. But when you don't realize that, it appears that truly exists. The emptiness looks like a form. You don't think it's emptiness, but you think the form is independently form. So anyway, whatever way to empty your mind of things, meditate on that, reflect, whether it's someone or something or yourself. Just don't see it's truly there, except your own heated mind. And so try to, let them go from your own mental horizon. Masa jeme jera baraja ma jemenga ngo nyu zozurari je adezanje yonla janzo lo daya dam ga den baranga barazanga den bodezo anga den baranga barazanga den baranga barazanga den bodezo anga den baranga barazanga den ga den baranga barazanga den bodezo anga 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 Denga baranga de barazanga de bodezo, anga denga de baranga de barazanga de bodezo, anga denga de baranga de barazanga de gadenga de baranga de barazanga de bodezo, anga denga de baranga de barazanga de bodezo, anga denga de baranga de barazanga de bodezo, gadenga de baranga de barazanga de bodezo, anga denga de baranga de barazanga de bodezo, anga denga de baranga barazanga de bodezo, namula janzalo zanjela janzalo jela janzalo kendela yum jemejere jwaru Jimala Janzala General Janza Dunda Nevala Denandaza get them between the Dadabaji Dango Layang by Ji Jimajera Jibara the Jimadazan Hilas and Garden to the Nevala and the generals of a Shin Doba taking the Dagi Yum Jimajera Jibara the Jimatan Sama Hilas and Garden to the Danko Jivatama Jiri Banjamin Jam Papa Gonjosum Yakai and Medadan you the Chen Doba Jim Rade Joja Namala Janzala Zanjala Janzala Jala Janzala Gendala Janzala Imjamajara Jibala Jamala Janzala General Janza Dudan Daja get them in the river Zangala Amba Jajin Imjamajara Jibara Jimadazam Hilas and Zikadan Judan Wallet do the Jalas of a Chen Doba in the Dagi Imjamajara Jibala Jimadazam Hilas and Zikadan Judan Wallet and Dankotan Jivatama Jiri Banjam individual Papa Gonjosum Jigay de Medadan you do jail and Doba Jim Rabde Jivara George Namalama Janzala Sanjala Janzala Jala Janzala Gendila Jan Jimajara Jabara Jamal Janza General Janza Dudan Wallen and Daja get them in the river Jang by Jim Jimajara Johnson as a cousin to the Wallen. The General of Genova, the dog game Jimajara Jabara the Janzam as a cousin to the Wallen. Dankota Jivatama Jivabanjam individual and Jabba Gonjos and Jaga de Medada, you the Jela and Dover. Rada Java George, Geradon, the Judge Java, the Minden, never Jandan Dawa, and the Bono, Taji de Jandin de Dele George, Yeridan, and Gereger, and the Jung Azalus, Okela, Bada Jo, Jumbo never Javan, Zedo, Ganda, Donda, Javana, Jedan, Dondos, and Bells, and Madame, and Janavana, Tamji, Javan, Lava, and never Malo, Don, Don, Jazaka, Yamaya, Don, Gondanian, and Badam, Demadam Javan, Zedo. Thank you, everyone, joining me. The continuation of understanding the virtues of practicing patience and non-virtues of being impatient and being angry. This is not a question of how to be Buddhist or how to be Mahayanist, but how to be a human being. That how can we be patient with difficult situations instead of being inconvenienced by the practice, by difficulties, but how can we grow and bounce and really unfold amidst such a situation by predisposing how to cultivate the highly prized virtue of patience. Patience is a practice in a very volatile situation, but by a steady mind. External volatility does not overwhelm the mind of a patient. It's just like the soldier who's very experienced. He doesn't really mind how his enemies are attacking. He really have to make sure that how he can cover himself, but at the same time not lose the ground. And like that, one has to learn to capitalize on the difficult circumstances, difficult situations. So we're going to now talk about, from verse number 102, how to rely upon those people who appears to agitate us or harm us, not as objects of enmity, but one who's actually the indirect assistance for us to practice patience. So that's the main heading. For these, the first is, there are three verses. That is, the causes of harm is cause of your developing patience. So verse 102 says, we should not be angry, saying they are obstacles to virtue. Is not patience the supreme austerity? And is this not my chosen discipline? So one should really turn one's mind and not thinking, oh, they are doing this to me and they're harming me and they're obstacle to my progress or my kindness or my whatever. Instead of seeing them as an obstacle, but the practice of patience is the highest practice. But to practice patience, you need to be put on the spot by the obstacles. So what appears as obstacles to your virtue are actually not obstacles to your virtue. They become the cause of transforming it into virtue. So therefore, if you want to practice patience, you need a opponent to agitate you. You can't say, I'm going to practice patience today, sit there and then think you can progress. Patience is practice amidst the obstacle. So with the obstacles, all those people who are competitors, they will never become high class or class of competitor unless they have a good opponent with it. So the opponent teaches them how to upskill themselves. Likewise, all those temporary obstacles that we see them, they are actually the direct cause of our development. But that's why Shakyamuni Buddha, while staying in the palace in comfort and luxury and with enjoyment and all these things, was not become cause of his growth, And instead, when he went to the forest, when he exposed himself to the cold and the wind and the dry and the wet and the wild beasts and just mosquitoes or whatever, all of those he exposed himself, then they did not become the interference of his practice, but they became the very cause to transform his patience. His impatience become patience, and his hardships becomes a great victory. You have to learn how to survive in very difficult situations, isn't it? And if you so all the difficult situations deliberately go. When you are in a military training, you go through all kinds of hardships. You put the bar higher, and you try to sort of crawl under a barbed wire, put the barbed wire as low as possible. You still try to go under it, So you try to, so that you actually put whatever resistance, whatever difficulties you have, in order to train your skill, so that you are able to negotiate with them and then upskill you. So you are actually, isn't this my chosen discipline? Yes, this is my chosen discipline. So therefore, the discipline has to be mastered. The mastering of the discipline depends on the very hard questions. People do years of study, and end of year they have examination. And examination is the greatest test. It's not the obstacle for your progress, but test is the actual indicator if you have studied very well throughout the whole year, the final examination. Like that, patience is the bar that measures your discipline or lack thereof. So therefore, all the things that seems like a challenging, opposing factor to you or harmful things to you are actually the very assistance, very accompaniment of your journey and your progress. So when we are able to think like that, so we do not develop anger or impatience, but we develop gentleness and patience and tolerance by being able to think that way. And so that's the verse 102. And about 103 under the same heading. So if I fail to practice patience, if it's a very understatement, I fail to practice patience, hindered by my own deficiency. So when I'm not practicing patience, it only shows deficiency with my own tolerance and humility and grace and generosity and so on. So when you fail to practice patience, when you are put on the spot by the obstacles, they're actually helping you to measure your deficiency or your proficiency. So therefore, the tests are not there to harm you. Tests are there to show your resistance. How much antibody you have. How much of energy you have. If you don't have, you need to develop it. You can only develop it by noticing how you're failing. I'm myself the obstacle to gaining merit, yet so close at hand. So therefore we should see we are our own obstacle. Nobody is a cause of obstacle. So therefore one should not treat with the obstacles as an obstacle, but obstacles as a measurer of your success or lack of the success. So therefore, when you want to know your success, you want a measuring tape, don't you? You don't throw the measuring tape thinking I'm too short. A measuring tape telling how short or how tall you are, but it's not an obstacle to your shortness. If you're short, at least the measuring tape, that you have room to grow. So therefore, if someone is causing an obstacle to you, one should see them as the measurer of your progress. The measurer doesn't have to measure anything if it wasn't you who have to measure. So if you don't need to develop patience, then of course there's no problem. But you need to. So therefore, are you going to cause your own progress, delay your own progress by doing that? I hope not. So that's why, it's talking about one you need to a reasonable amount of merit yourself. A merit to be able to merit yet so closer. You have too many obstacles from beginning merit. If you're disciplined, if you're diligent, if you're punctual, if you're consistent, those are the merit. But these are lacking. And when these are lacking, then it is shown what they are lacking. So the lack of your merit may be exposed by the harm, but they are not the actual harm. They are actually the measurers. Yeah, and verse number 104 goes to say, "For nothing comes except through other factors, and comes to those factors being present. If one thing is the cause of something else, how could it be then be said to hinder it?" Yeah, so it's very fallacious, very erroneous to think that the objects are the hindrance. Objects are the measuring tape is not the hindrance. Measuring tape is the cause for you to grow up or change your size or lose better weight or whatever. You don't stand on a scale to measure, to weigh your body, and then when the machine shows you are 89 kilos, you don't see it is a problem. That the scale is not the problem. Scale shows that you can drop some weight if you want to, because it is 89, and if you are expected, according to your height and so on, you're meant to be 74. So difference between 74 and 89 is 15 kilos. So the scale is saying you have extra 15 kilos. So he's actually showing you what you need to do to change. Rather than saying, "Oh, you keep looking at the scale and saying the scale is the problem because it told you you're 89 because you thought you were 74." Maybe so that's why it is important not to be have enmity to the all external things as a cause of your progress, but you should capitalize on them as a cause for your need to change. So therefore, how could it then be said that those external factors are hindrances to you? In a bar that the high jump person is putting, that he tried to jump, is not a hindrance for him. It's just an indicator how high he is jumping or how high he cannot jump. And when he hits the bar and falls down, it means that he has to either upskill himself, try again, or he needs to maybe put a little bit lower and try to jump. So the bar is not a hindrance. Bar is just a cause. Actually, the bar is actually cause to estimate how high you should leap, and how far from you should run, and where you should leap from. And then you get it right to leap and stretch and then flung yourself over the bar. So the bar is actually not a hindrance. It looks like a hindrance because you didn't get to go over that, but you are meant to not to hit on the bar. You're meant to go over the bar. So you keep hitting on the bar, then that's the problem. So bar is not the hindrance. Bar is actually helping you to improve your discipline to jump higher. So the bar may fall down each time you hit it, but if you're a high jumper and go and hit on the bar and then again you get up and break the bar, people will disqualify you. They will disqualify you from competing. It's like that. Lots of people have failed themselves by thinking it's their mother, or thinking it's their job, or thinking the person is the obstacle. They don't realize the person is not the obstacle. Your attitude about them is your enmity, your ill will, your resentment, and patience is trying to identify those, help ourselves to recognize them, and then take and remedy them from the state of our mind. When you're able to do that, then the progress will be very very visible. Next one, verse number 105 is also under the same heading, how obstacles are. Harm causers are actually cause of your progress. Beggars who arrive at the proper times are not an obstacle to generosity. That's right. When you want to practice generosity and there are people who are begging for them, when you see them, you want to practice generosity, and you see the arrival of beggars as an obstacle. No, they're not an obstacle. They're a cause of your generosity. People think you're a cause of your generosity. You who is generous. No, If you're generous, you can give the book to yourself and then practice generosity 20 times each day. You can give the book. But if you want to give the book to someone, you have to give the book to someone who needs it. Like that, so people with whom you need to be kind to, people who come to you, who you need to be kind to comes to you, and so people who need kindness from you usually don't looks very kind to you. They are actually they look very, very absent of kindness. So they have very, very hostile. Maybe they're very, 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 very negative and very very insulting and so on. The people who are very negative and insulting and disrespectful and that like that, of course, most people will reject them outright. But person who has the mental predisposition and formidable knowledge and what is patient, he will embrace them as cause of his patience, because he's very able to practice kindness to those who are hostile and who's negative. And by doing that, that's why the kindness matters. Why? Kindness stops the other person's aggression from escalating. And also it stops yourself, retaliating their aggression with your aggression. See, now you can cancel. You can cancel the aggression. The generosity can alleviate the hunger of the beggar. And what does the beggar become? Beggar is happy, looking, smiling. He's so thankful. You only gave him just a plate of food, or just a piece of bread, or a couple of kabags, or they call gold. Can you give me a change? They call it, yeah. And you have to see what might mean that to him for the time being, So if you give a change, when he asks just for change, see, he's not an obstacle for you to practice generosity, is it? He's a cause of your generosity. The coin that you kept in the wallet is not a cause of generosity. It could be cause of miserliness, if you don't give it. So, but if the beggar comes when you want to give, that's amazing. It's a blessing. So you should not see the people or things that harms you as an obstacle, but cause of your generosity. We cannot say that those who give the vows are causing hindrance to ordination. That's right. If you want to become ordained, you want the people who will give the ordination. So therefore, of course, it sounds nice to be ordained, but it's even better if the beggar comes to you to make you to practice generosity. Like next time when you see somebody come asking for something, whatever, we're not just talking necessarily monetary thing. Here is example beggar, but it might mean people say, people might say, can I borrow your car, or can I do this, or whatever, they want something. It's and you have something that they can have, and they ask it. What a wonderful thing! That's you are letting your thing to be used by someone who is more in need of it than letting your things to stay idle there. And so when you can predispose like that, that is, then you are actually getting ordination. You can only be ordained not just because you want to shave and don on a robe, but you got to have someone who gives the ordination, isn't it? So giving ordination is, one who gives the vows is not a hindrance for your ordination. They actually cause your ordination. So, even though you may get a vow to be a monk, but what does it mean to practice patience and contented and humble and simple and so on? And someone is doing something that tests your humility, you should see that as a cause of a real ordination of a monkhood. The one who shaves your hair, and that's barber doing it. Barber is not cause of your growth. But your cause of growth is someone actually tried to intimidate you, someone tried to criticize you, someone who's trying to put you down. Now, to most people, they say, I wonder, if he's putting me down, why should I practice patience, they call it. And that's why we have this problem. or people don't want to do practice generosity when the beggar arrives, So the sentient beings who may look like harming you or a bit of insulting to you actually cause your ordination for a practice of patience. I mean, it's much better ordination than just having a haircut, Haircut is not an ordination, But if someone makes you to practice patience, that's a higher ordination. Very few people are willing to do that kind of job to intimidate or upset you, So there is definitely a blessing in disguise when one can predispose to practice patience. So that's that. And now the second of that subheading is how benefit occurs by feeling joy, feeling joyful by practicing, by practicing patience. Verse number 106, it goes to say, the beggars in the world are many, attackers comparatively few. Yeah, for as I do no harm to others, those who do me injury are rare. Yeah, say to practice maybe generosity. There are plenty of people who one needs something. You go down to the town. There's always some people in the street wanting food, but there will be hardly few people who will come and harm you in the bus or in the street or like that. Just as many as beggars. So he says, attackers are comparatively very, very few. And chances of you practicing patience is even fewer. But if yet you want to practice patience, but you can't practice patience because they have to be attackers. They have to be someone who has to do the provoking job, and not a lot of people are going to do that. So if somebody is going to do the harming and attacking on you, they must be part of your karma or part of whatever it is. It occurs so seldom. And people think that they're very comfortable because they live in a very peaceful relationship. The person doesn't challenge you at all, whatever. But actually, there's such kind of a place. Nobody grows. Nobody grows to become strong and patient. If you're exposed to someone who is difficult, there's attackers are very few. Well, no wonder why the world people are not growing. Everybody's so civilized, Everybody's so civilized. Nobody want to upset anybody, and therefore they don't give each other any opportunity to grow. So attackers are very, very comparatively fewer. And we also are not willing to go and harm others. So we don't give them to practice patience. So those who do me injury are very, very rare. So if you did meet someone who is hard on you or difficult on you, usually there's a very near and dear and close person in your life. They have a huge karmic, they have a huge unfinished business with you from past karma. So it's not their choice. They've been pushed by themselves. They're not having a great time with you, but the karmic, mutual karma is so difficult. So it's an excellent opportunity that when one need to take advantage of this rare opportunity, because those who do harm to you are very relatively rare. And every day you say, I have a great day. If somebody really attack you, somebody really sort of accuse you or put you down, and that is the rarest of rarest opportunity, then when you will practice Dharma. Because being nice, courteous to each other, nobody harms anybody, and nobody. That's not practicing necessary Dharma. That's just plain lucky. We may call it. It was a lovely day, but lovely day, nothing, no growth. But difficult situation, worse situation are the best opportunities where you can grow, because worse are very, very few opportunities. So that's why I say those who injure and harm me are very relatively few, relatively rare. So days that you will practice patience are very, very rare. And when there is someone who's doing harm, they say zero tolerance. So that's very rare that very few will even practice patience. And also that much fewer will also do the harming job too, because they won't find many people to practice patience. So why they waste the opportunity? So if you do meet these rare opportunities, rare as someone to attack you, it's not because you are wrong or you're bad, It's because you need to improve and grow, cultivate patience. And it's not that they are deliberately coming to say that you should do, but you've got to have the creativity to think, oh, this is an excellent opportunity. Who wants to do the dirty job to injure and attack me, upset me? Maybe this is an excellent opportunity for me to practice patience, because if I don't practice patience, their injurious motivation will also injure them even more. So how I can de-escalate that? It's such a rare opportunity, Rare opportunity. It's like saying you have a wallet full of money in your pocket and you went into town and tried to find some beggars to give, and you came home. No, you couldn't meet anyone. You tried to give a gentleman in his suit going to the office. He said, no, what do you mean? He become insulted. You try to give money to people, because most people will reject you. Why? It's not because you're not generous, because there's no cause for your generosity. That's someone who needs your money. It's just like that. Even though you want to be patient, then you need somebody who is willing to rub against you, and then that you have this excellent fitness to be able to practice patience then. So it's very rare. Being able to practice patience is very rare, because most people want what they call good working environment, they call it. Good working environment where nobody grows. Nobody grows. Yeah, so if you have a really volatile boss or very unpredictable companion or something like that, it may be very toxic workplace, as they call it in the modern world, but maybe there you will grow more, because you had a lot of skills in your actual professional skill, but you will upgrade your skill to grow and be kind and be patient. If you did that, you think that's too much good you will do too soon. So what's the fear of it? Why we have to fear that we may do some good? Verse number 107. So like a treasure found at home, enriching me without fatigue. Yeah. So if you discover a treasure at home, treasure at home. Don't you think it's a great, beggars, like a treasure found at home, enriching me without any fatigue. All enemies are helpers in my Bodhisattva work, and therefore they should be a joy to me. So those people who is harming to you, who is causing some obstacle to you, you shouldn't feel, what's wrong with him? He's always after me. Don't think like that. That is done by those foolish people say that. Or you say, oh, poor thing, what kind of unfinished karma. I myself has unfinished burden from the past. Here comes someone who helped me to pay it off, pay my karmic debt. Like say you've been told you should pay your karmic debt, somebody, but you never find opportunity to pay your karmic debt, and then you realize someone who's doing that. Oh, this person's doing the hard job. I have to, take that advantage of doing the Bodhisattva's work. They are helping me. So they actually say the enemies actually are your past loved ones, to whom you did not treat them very well, and now they have come in this life as some people. And therefore they are helping you to complete your Bodhisattva's work. And therefore you should rejoice at the fact that you have someone or some few people like that. It's very good. So if you have no enemy, you wouldn't grow. That's the whole thing. If you haven't got someone who doesn't sort of upset you, agitate you, you're not spiritually growing. You will not grow spiritually. You may have a quarrel-free day or stress-free week or something like that, But it is in the midst of those stress and challenges there you will develop an amazing humanity. Practice of patience. So practice of patience is an excellent opportunity to make you to grow and complete your work of bodhisattvas, to overcome your enmity, selfishness, egotistical mind, and very, very poor resistance. All will be all will be transformed by this exposure to someone. So you should rejoice, you should rejoice. Rejoice them. I mean, I think most people will not rejoice. That's the whole thing. They say, I want to move away. I don't want to go there. I hate him. They say that. They just want to flee. And they want to flee, but with enmity. And that's worse. You don't practice patience, the enmity and ill will stay in you. This is the whole thing. So they're actually helping you to get rid of the enmity by practicing patience and get rid of your ill will by practicing patience. So on the spot, it might be a bit difficult. It's like you are having a surgical removal of something. Yeah, if surgically they have to pull the knife out of the sheath and cut you up. You pay them huge money to have your problem removed. But if someone helps you remove your ill will and impatience, don't you feel it's a great joy? You don't have to pay nothing. It's a free surgery. Free surgery. If someone is coming in, there's an eye hospital camp in some Nepal. Everybody can have an eye surgery, cataract removal, free. It's just like that. Someone who's harming you, it's actually the cause for your joy, great joy, great joy for you to practice the Bodhisattva's work. So who will be able to think like this? This is what Shantideva is challenging us, how to upskill our mind to practice patience. Verse number 108, the fruits of patience are for them and me. Yeah, if you practice patience, the benefit is for them and you. For both of us have brought it into being, because the cause of the conflict or whatever has been brought by both, mutually brought. It doesn't mean they don't have some unfinished karma. They also have unfinished karma with you. You also have unfinished karma with you. So both have brought this. You think it's only they brought it to you, and therefore you justify not being patient. No, you should think we are both in the same boat. We have both brought this upon us. So it's very wonderful, wise women. Both of us have brought it into being. Both of us have brought this into being, yeah? It's such an amazing way to look at that. This has been brought to ourselves by ourselves, yeah, and yet to them they must be offered first. For my patient, they have been the cause. So we have to practice patience because their provocation or their instigation or their cruelty or their insult to you is actually cause of your patience. So if you practice patience to them, then because the benefit of the patience should be offered to them by being patient to them. Have anybody come to you later saying, I hate you being patient. Please don't be patient to me. They actually felt on the spot when you were being patient, you may have felt a little bit not beyond your depth. But later on, you realize, as a result of your practice patience, the person has downscaled their aggression to you. Some might do more, but that's just a temporary thing. Deep down, it will quell. It will pacify their aggression to you, their criticism to you. Why? Because it's the medicine. The patience is the medicine for their misery as much as your misery. And so, if you practice patience, you're offering medicine to them. And because it's without them, you can't have the medicine. You can't Practice the patience without them doing the hard lifting. So it's a very, very bodhisattva to be able to, that kind of able to think is just like 360 degrees. You have to change your head around. They're actually helping me. You know, you don't say he abused me. You say he helped me. Some people say that in hindsight they helped me, they say. Oh, I thought they were really all over the place. They were really unreasonable to me. They really treated me badly. I was, people say I was brutalized. I was, exploited. And people say that when they are in that deluded state of mind. But years afterwards, and when they have really thought through, and then they realize, oh, they actually empowered me to be so strong. And now, they actually made me to be strong and not give in to my own enmity and my childishness, but try to discover some amazing qualities. So therefore, you have a blunt knife, and when you see a knife sharpener, you don't see the knife sharper as a hindrance, do you? So like that, when you sharpen the knife on the sharpener, of course your knife have to be put on the sharpener. So you can't tolerate that, because your knife is not going to stay blunt unless you work with the sharpener. So sharpener is to bring the good in the blunt knife, that is sharpening. And so therefore, you don't have the sharp sense of faculty to practice patience unless someone rubs against you. So if you are very, very fragile and you're so soft and nobody can dare do anything because you leap and you irritate, you just jerk, and that means you will stay a blunt knife. You will never cut anything, and you won't achieve nothing because you are a useless piece of metal. But the blunt knife, when it met with the sharpener, so the sharpener is actually is the cause for your blunt knife to become sharp. Yeah, you may have a potential to be sharp, but unless you have a sharpener, it does not sharpen. So therefore, you might have wanted to practice patience, but your patience is still unrevealed unless you meet with the sharpener. That analogy. So therefore, by practicing patience, by being able to practice patience, we are able to mutually benefit. When at the time most people are having a really difficult time, they don't like being sharpened on the sharpener. The sharpener of the knife is sometimes a piece of rock or sometimes those things. Nobody wanted that. But if you want to use the knife to become sharp, you will need to. So therefore, one needs to look at the role of that. Now, the third point is how it is suitable to venerate them like the holy Dharma. So you bow down to Dharma, you put books on your head, and you buy holy scriptures wrapped up in holy clothes and some sacred clothes. And so he says that you should learn to venerate them. Verse number 109, those 2-3 verses on that says, yet if I say my foe should not be praised, since he did not intend to stimulate my patience, why do I revere the sacred doctrine, cause indeed of my attainment? You will think the sacred doctrine and texts of the Buddha, Dharma, and Pali or Sanskrit very sacred, or whatever, put the books on the head and so on. But what is in the book, what says in the book, is to practice patience. And if someone doesn't stimulate or challenge to practice patience, no matter how much you venerate the book, it's just a etiquette. You're just an etiquette to bow down to books. Of course, it's a religious habit to bow down to books, but even a person who's really bowing down to the book, they should do what the book says, which says practice patience, be kind to sentient beings, And even the book says you should practice patience. Like this Shantideva's chapter 6 says practice patience, and you listen to it, you read it, you engrave it on gold, and you draw in very nice books, and you build stupas, and you paint them in wonderful things. But they're just a cultural showpiece. They're not patience. Patience is, if the teaching in the sacred says you should practice patience, you will believe that. But your real cause of patience is someone who is willing to rub your nose against. So that's why it is important. It is important to see the direct cause of your patience is them, not the sacred book. Why do you revere sacred doctrine? Cause indeed of my attainment. Yeah, you can say that. So the actual contents of the book can only be implemented when you're exposed to the difficulties, by the difficulties. So this enemy conspired to harm me, on verse number 110, I protest, and therefore should receive no honors. But had he worked to help me like a doctor, how would I have brought forth patience? So that verse number 110 goes to say the holy Dharma, holy Dharma does not have the intention to harm, but enemies that with harmful thoughts towards us, it is not suitable to honor them, we might say. But if all the enemies had no thought of harm, like a physician always brought only happiness, benefit, and so on, how could the meditation patience be accomplished? Even though you believe in practice patience, but if you don't have the kind of a cause that will instigate you, you couldn't practice patience, because there's no harm. If there's no harm, there's no cause of patience. Your cause of patience is not the text. Your understanding of the teaching may be necessary, but still the direct cause of your patience is someone who will harm you. So someone who harms you is actually, as I sometimes say, and I can say now, someone who harms you really arms you to practice what you believe in the book. But otherwise, the book says practice patience, you say yes. But when it comes to the people who are harming you, you're not quite there ready that. Why? Because you honor the books. But you should honor what book says by doing it. I mean, if you did what the book says, and then it is even more beneficial, more beneficial. So that's why it is important to practice patience. Because of those whose mind are full of anger, I engender patience in myself. They are thus the cause of patience, fit for veneration, like the doctrine. So, if you really think what the doctrine says, the teaching says, you should practice patience, you should be kindness, and the real cause of patience is them. So, therefore, they are worthy of objects of veneration. Veneration means be gentle, non-retaliatory, not negative to them, not hating them when they hate you, not screaming to them when they scream at you, but saying, oh, this is an excellent cause for me to predispose patience. I venerate Dharma. I think the Dharma is sacred. This is the cause of me realizing the sacred Dharma. This is the real cause of the sacredness. This is the real cause of sacredness of Dharma. Yeah. So one is able to see the cause of your growth coming from not the text directly, but cause of your growth coming directly from the from the challenges, from the challenging situations that actually makes you to be so exposed to anger. So someone who makes you angry, whose anger is very much so their anger is cause of patience, and so someone's anger, your anger towards them, anger to anger is neither of their patience. Then it's become impatience. Their anger is called your patience. Your anger is cause your impatience. So it's good to know which is cause of which, because if you want to be patient, there you need someone who's angry to you. If you want to be impatient, you need to be angry, which you have plenty of. So we are not saying we are short of impatient people. So we need patient people. To be patient, you have to be exposed to angry people, which is not a lot of people are willing to do that job. Not a lot of people will be willing to upset you and angry you. Why? Because it's rarer to be able to practice something virtuous. So therefore, someone who is doing the kind of doing the hard kind of job, firstly, they themselves has to exhaust karma. Now, question is whether you are going to really cooperate them to help them to exhaust their karma as well as your karma. So if you practice patience, it's become double merit. If you practice patience, you cause their anger to be exhausted by your patience, and so their aggression to you has not fallen useless, but become transformed into patience because you have the sacred Dharma that you venerate so highly. And then you realize the person who you are exposed to of their anger become cause of your patience. So therefore, like the doctrine or dharma that you pay homage to, you venerate, you greatly venerate, rejoice them for the things they have done, for things they're doing. It's because they have very unfinished karma with you. Firstly, secondly, they have caused you to practice dharma. Their negative karma has become cause your dharma, See, dharma is not a standalone virtue. The medicine is not medicine, Medicine is only medicine to a person who's sick. Then the medicine becomes medicine. The medicine with a sick person is never going to be used as a medicine. So it's no waste. It's a waste of thing, So if the people who have many medicine in the drugstore and they're not selling anyone, that means they haven't got many sick people. So sometimes they put them a 50% discount. Why? Because there's not many people sick. So that's why the health industry is a sick industry, and they will never fail short of customers. Customers, it's a boost. It's a roaring business, I'm told, in the sickness industry. They call health industry, but because there are lots of people getting sick, so all the drugs are needed. So if you like the cause of, if you venerate the Dharma, you should venerate the cause of practicing the Dharma. Cause of the practicing Dharma is very, 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 very few. So next we go to number 4, how the practice of patience suitable to venerate them like the Buddha. Suitability of veneration from the point of view of result, and suitability of veneration from the point of view of the good qualities. So there's two. First is the suitability of veneration from the point of view of result. This got half a dozen verses, starting on verse number 112. It says, the world of beings are a Buddha field. Thus the mighty Lord has taught, for many who have sought the happiness for others have gone beyond attaining to perfections. So that's saying that So sentient beings are like a Buddha field, really, because without sentient beings, you don't earn merit. You don't earn merit in front of sentient beings. People talk of visualizing merit field, all these holy beings. You don't do a lot of good things in front of holy. Real good thing is patience, and holy beings don't instigate you. So therefore, world of beings are a Buddha field. That's why they're called immeasurable sentient beings. Has excellent opportunity to practice immeasurable loving kindness because they are the Buddha field. So sentient beings are like a Buddha field, Buddha field, Buddha field. They are Buddha field because all sentient beings are a fertile ground of you practicing kindness to, patience to, generosity to. Otherwise, even if the Buddha told you practice kindness and generosity, they're not talking to you to talk on kindness to walls or trees or inanimate objects or to the Buddhas. Buddha don't need your kindness, by the way. You need to practice kindness to sentient beings. So, like a field in which you sow the seed, it grows. Now, sentient beings are the field. If you don't have sentient beings, you have no opportunity to grow, cultivate your seeds. So you have Buddha nature. You have a vow to practice kindness or patience or generosity, but there's no sentient beings. So I don't know why people can practice without sentient being, I don't know if people want to rush to Deva realms or somewhere there. So you have to practice patience with sentient beings where there's everyone. You don't even have to learn how to visualize a merit field. Sentient beings everywhere. Wherever you go, there's sentient being everywhere. So they said that sentient beings are the Buddha realms, Buddhas have said that sentient beings are Buddha field. Buddha field means Buddha realms. Yeah, that's right. Being able to make them happy is the cause of your progress and perfection. So therefore, you should not leave sentient being behind. That's why in Mahayana Buddhism, to renounce sentient beings is not a Buddha practice. It's selfish that you want to go where there is no sentient beings. So for a Mahayana, they befriend sentient beings. They regard sentient beings as the cause of it is only the Lord sentient beings that makes you to practice Dharma. If you don't have difficult sentient beings, you don't have a Buddha field. You can't practice Dharma. You can read books, you can count beads, but that's not Dharma. That's just customary Dharma practice. That's just Indian or Tibetan way of practicing what you call customary Dharma. It's just cultural Dharma. You think they're practicing Dharma because they're doing that? Of course, we are not saying they're not. It's just a cultural. The real practice Dharma is with sentient beings you practice patience. So sentient beings are the Buddha field, and so it is only by working with them. When you want them to be happy, you want them to be caused to be happy, you want them to be practice patience with, they become cause of your own attaining liberation. It's simple as that. Sentient beings are cause your liberation. So to renounce sentient beings, this got no chance. How can you emotionally grow by not working with sentient beings who stimulate your afflictive emotions? So those sentient beings who incite your afflictive emotions are actually like the Buddha field. When you first buy a field, it's not all plowed and ready to. You have to buy land. You have to plow, bring a bulldozer or tractor or something, remove big boulders and tree roots and all of that. You have to remove them. So but yet you still don't say this is not the field. This is the field, but you got to remove the things. beings. So your own impatience is now being plowed by the help of sentient beings. So sentient beings is actually the plow. Sentient beings is actually field, and the Dharma is the plow, and the tree roots and all the things, that's your karma. Your karma is removed, and then whatever you sow the seed to the field which is sentient being, can be practice, sow the seed of kindness, sow the seed of kindness, kind words, kind thoughts to sentient beings, then your crops will grow in that field. Thus, the state of Buddhahood depends on beings and the Buddhas equally. By what tradition is it then that the Buddha but not beings are revered? This is very important. Verse number 113 highlights that. So the sentient beings and the Buddhas are equal, because if you pay homage to the Buddha, it's very good. But if you pay homage to respect to sentient beings, it's even better, So therefore, one shouldn't, by what tradition it is then that Buddhas but not beings revered, So must be the tradition of those who doesn't know the Dharma. Yeah, they're really holy and very, very mindful in front of the statue. They took the shoes off and they kneel or something, But in front of sentient beings, they just up in arms and throwing punches to each other. Just ridiculous. So the real practitioner should be kind to the sentient beings. Statues, of course, you don't want to be irreverent in front of statues, but it's even more if you're reverent and thoughtful and mindful in front of sentient beings. He says, by what tradition? That you are very, 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 very kind of devout and so on in front of statues on the Buddhas, but not sentient beings. Why? Who taught you? Who taught you to, That's what they call idol worshippers, because these people are only nice in front of statues, but not nice to fellow people. I mean, there's actually a point there, All these devout culture of Buddhists are nice, building huge stupas and temples and so on, but when it deals with the difficult people, they are not kind towards each other, So that's just like culture Buddhism overtaking the true Buddhism. So he says, whose tradition is that? Whose tradition is that? Not showing any care and concern and compassion to sentient being, but put a lot of effort in to revere the Buddha. There's nothing wrong with revering Buddha, by the way. So it's good to revere the Buddha, but it is if people understood why they revered Buddha, so that they can be honor the Buddha's word, which is non-violence, kindness to sentient being. We can offer flowers and water to the Buddha, but with sentient beings, you have to do more than that. Why? That's what the Buddha teaches. Buddha doesn't say, give me a flower offering every day 3 times. Don't care about sentient beings. That's not the teaching. Teaching is so that we are thoughtful and gracious and kind and non-violent and non-judgmental, particularly. People think they are Buddhists, but they're not kind to fellow Buddhists because some people have problems or personal problems, or who doesn't, who have karma, and they say, oh, no, I don't want nothing to do with that. Why? They're a sentient being they're sentient being. They are sentient being with problems, and they don't want anything to do with sentient being with problems, you see? See, these kind of Buddhists cannot, that's why the Buddhist number is dwindling, They say number of Buddhists are only 7% of the world, Even among them, most are that kind of pseudo-Buddhists, culture Buddhists. They're not practicing patience to each other, but they're burning thousands of butter lamps. They're doing all sorts of reading and chanting. In the shrine, they're all very holy and very, very solemn. But on the street, they're punching each other and they're taking each other to court over miserable things. This is a complete opposite of Buddhism. So here Shantideva says, why are people practicing that kind of tradition? Not beings, but they all all revering to the Buddha, The Buddha actually statue is very special, but if you really look at it, you don't need to be so careful to the Buddha images. Even if you went anti-clockwise, it's only culturally they say wrong, but it doesn't upset the Buddha. It's a Buddha. Buddha will not be offended if you walk. But even if you went to qualify, if you did circumambulation, did all the wonderful religious correct etiquette of Buddhist influence, but outside the temple yard, if you go and kick the dogs and abuse people and argue over two people over small matters and becoming so cranky, and all the offering you made is just completely wasted. Completely wasted. That's what they're saying. Why we have this kind of tradition? People revering the Buddha, but not sentient beings. How do you revere sentient beings? Sentient beings, you have to practice patience. With Buddhas, you can do bow downs. So that's why people who do a lot of bow downs in front of Buddha, sometimes they get blessed. They change. The purpose of my doing many prostration Buddha is to practice this very humility to sentient beings. Then you have really understood the teachings of the Dharma. It's very good to have a comprehension of Dharma. When you understand the Dharma, it really greatly boosts your own kind of certitude and confidence. They are not, of course, the same, but it is by their fruits that we should know them. And so we see the excellence of beings, and the Buddhas are indeed the same. So this is saying that if you're able to check carefully, the aims of Buddhas and aims of sentient beings are different. Not of course the same. But their fruit we should know. Sentient being might be want to harm you, but their intention to harm you doesn't harm you. Your intention to harm them back will harm you. But if you practice patience with their harm, that's what the fruit. The fruit is different. We should know the fruit of practicing not harming the harmer is the great fruit we wanted to reap. And so therefore, when we see sentient beings who may have ill will, who may have malice, who may have all kinds of wrong things and want to harm us, but we got to see what is the result. Is that going to determine the result to us, or if we're going to sort of do something that'll change the result? Yeah, the result, the fruits will be. We should know what would be the fruits of practicing patience. If you practice kindness to them, then it becomes patient. So if you practice, if you practice generosity and devotion in front of the Buddha statue, and it's a meritorious things, even though your back is a little hurtful, you don't want to do so many prostration, but yet you do because it's a devotional thing, And if you think it's good to do that, same is the sentient being. If you practice patience with sentient beings, and which is a bit inconvenient to you, and which might be difficult for you, but actually that beings and Buddhas are indeed the same. If you do it for the right reasons. So sentient beings are not interference or obstacles for you to develop and grow, but actually they are equally the cause. Buddha inspires you, and you do the what inspiration Buddha gave with sentient beings. So they both are direct cause for your unfolding. For your unfolding. 114 and 115 says, offerings made to one who loves reveals the eminence of living beings. Merit that accrues from faith in Buddha reveals in turn Buddha's eminence. So if you gave something good to someone who one loves, and then it shows the importance of enemies and so sentient beings. So because if you do something good, practice generosity, being patient to sentient beings. So if you spoke kind words to them, that's a really good offering. That's a good offering. Probably much better offering them money, if you really are patient with them, and you just don't mind what they say when they do, just practice loving kindness to them. And if you do that, that probably shows how important sentient being is, particularly those who are difficult. Most people complain about difficult sentient beings. They haven't understood the Dharma. It's the sentient beings who are difficult. It's the field. You got the field and you complain about the field. Without the field, you cannot grow crops. The seed that you went to buy the other day and is sitting in the jar will not grow in the jar. Seed have to go onto the soil. You have to, selflessly strew the seed on the ground. Likewise, you have to practice patience, the seed of patience on the field of sentient beings. For 3-4 months you don't see anything growing. It may be so. Yeah, farmers know that. Farmers are wise enough to know their field is valuable. The land value always going up. Remember why? Because without the land, you can't grow any crops. You want bread, you want rice, you want vegetables. They don't grow in thin air, They don't grow on the top of roofs. They don't grow in concrete jungles. They grow in the village, backbreaking works with the village going in the field. So sentient beings are field-like, So if you do something good to the field, you can plow them, you can really make the field in a very nice paddy fields, put fence around it, and bring water to it. All the time that you spend in the field, all your rewards and crops comes from there. Likewise, if you work with sentient beings, all the eminence of sentient beings will come. So the merit you accrue with the Buddha is through faith. The merit that you grew with sentient beings, is believing in the Buddha's teaching to practice kindness, tolerance with sentient beings. And then even the faith in the Buddha is pretty neither here nor there. Faith in the Buddha, you show some customary etiquette in front of Buddha, but it's even better if you practice patience with sentient beings. If you practice patience with sentient beings who are particularly hard on you and hard to anyone, so for that matter, if you look at those sentient beings who upsets you, they like that everywhere. Whoever they go with, they're always like that. They have this unfinished pattern. And it's like an abandoned land. Abandoned land is not producing any crops, and all kind of unnecessary sort of weed grows there, and it just totally sort of warps the land, and so on. Why? It's abandoned land. So you don't let the sentient beings to be abandoned and neglected by not practicing patience with them. And you should work with sentient beings. Not because they're difficult, but you don't have the skill to work with sentient beings. Exactly. That's why you should practice patience. When you practice patience, you're not losing. The farmer is sowing the seed on the ground. Don't think he's losing the money. The field doesn't need your seeds, But as a result of sowing the seeds on the field, he may have put 1 bucket full of seed, but 4 months later, he will have maybe 100 buckets of crops. So practicing patience, most people don't want it because it's very productive. In the long run, it takes 4 months. 4 months is very quick, actually. Because the farmer's crops is within 4 months, But practicing patience, crops will take a little longer than that. No wonder why so few people have that's of zero tolerance. There's not many people want to practice tolerance. Because there's so many sentient beings they can practice with, and they don't. They just want to abandon all the land, and they want to go somewhere else. When it's difficult sentient beings, they complain, they criticize, they backbite, and then they create more negative karma. They don't realize that very difficult sentient beings, to work with them is the most growth-providing circumstances. I mean, and you have to emotionally be so literate to think like this. You have to be very wise, This is Shantideva writing, of course. You have to almost think back to front. You have to, you have to look everything reverse, and then try to look at it. Because our idea of being nice to people is when they're nice to us, and then we think that's a virtue. That's not a virtue. This is called civilized. But when we practice Dharma, it's exactly opposite. When things are difficult to you, you should see that as an opportunity to grow. It's like recycling. The person who wants to recycle always looking for garbage, the things that are thrown away in a litter. They're not going in the supermarket to buy. They go to the streets and the dumping ground and tin bins of tin and so on, and they go and collect those things. They recycle. So practice patience is a form of recycling. What most people abandon, the Bodhisattva want that. Why? Because he knows how to transform it into a good result. Merit accrues from the faith in the Buddha, reveals in turn Buddha's eminence. Yeah, if you have the faith in the Buddha, it accrues merit. It even is more productive if the faith in the Buddha is translated into practicing patience. Because faith in the Buddha, as Buddha said, practice patience. That's the highest form of austerity, highest form of penance, and therefore highest virtue of all. If the highest virtue is practicing patience with sentient beings, you therefore have to prioritize how best you can practice patience with sentient beings. Patience with sentient beings. Verse number 116 of that section, since they are both the means of winning Buddhahood. So meaning, by having faith in the Buddha, you will earn merit. By practicing patience with sentient beings, you earn merit. Since these two are both the means of winning Buddhahood, we say that beings are the same as Buddhas. So therefore, all sentient beings are Buddhas. Buddhas in disguise. Buddhas who come as your mentors, your trainers. Because when you have a personal trainer, if you did a bit of training, physical training, sometimes you think your trainer is too much. He wants you to run fast or carry this weight or you just say, gosh, this guy is too much for me, He's pushing me so hard and I can't do this stuff thing. But he's trying to bring the better side of you. He's not trying to give you a hard time. So sentient beings are trainers. Sentient beings are free trainers. You don't have to pay them. Free trainers, You don't need a coach. Sentient beings are coach, And people are always hiring life coaches. I don't know. They don't have any coach in their life. So all the difficult people in your life are real coaches, So all the difficult. Even though they are not equal in the boundless ocean of Buddha's merit, Buddhas have a lot of merit, and so therefore you might say it's much more wholesome and virtuous to work with the Buddhas, but that's just you're talking about how pleasant it is to work with the Buddhas and sentient beings. But the boundless merit in the ocean of boundless merit, Buddha merits, of course you can compare with that, but actually they are both same. They're both direct cause of winning the progress. Probably even better, lots of people want to go to Bodh Gaya and practice virtue there, but they don't want to practice practice at home. They put a special budget for pilgrimage and spend money for that. They don't realize how big a pilgrimage it is to work with difficult people in your life. And in going on pilgrimage and teaching teaches what you should do, but it's to do in everyday life. If you do everyday life, you have everyday small merit. Small amount of merit is accumulated. Drops of patience, drops of generosity is dropping in the bucket every day. And so if you practice patience with your boss at work or your difficult family members and so on, don't see them as a hindrance. Don't see them as a burden. That you should see them as a cause of your winning Buddhahood. It's a gift for your winning Buddhahood. It's a gift to overcome your neurosis, your emotional problems, and therefore do not see them as a hindrance or burdens. See them as a catalyst for your actual growth. So that's why it says, and they are both means of winning Buddhahood. And Shantideva had to do this. He was put down by all the monks of his monastery. They blamed him being lazy and they called him busuko or something. They just eat, sleep, and lie down or something. He does only those three things. And I think it was, he was not only being a monk, but when he in the monastery, he had to become another monk, because you have to really win his, conquer his anger, because he was really mistreated. He was cornered. He was you can call it, you can say he was bullied. He was bullied. So he's not writing this without experience. He experienced working with people, and they put him down. They call him busuku. I have to read about the busuku. There are three. It's the one who sleeps, eats, and or do nothing. So that's what they thought he was. I mean, just like somebody tells you good for nothing. You just eat, sleep, and shit like a dog or something. If someone tells you, that will insult you. And Shantideva had faced that. They didn't call him Shantideva. They call him Busuku. So, Shantideva didn't write this as a poetry. He wasn't writing this poetry competition in the local club or something. No, he was writing what he did in life. He found the people who were pushing him down and bullying him and so on and so forth become the actual field of merit to practice tolerance. He revered and have the Buddha who came some 1,300 years before him. Shantideva is, we're talking about 9th century, 9th, 10th century. That's like 1,400 years after the Buddha. So his relationship with Buddha is quite remote, mostly like ours. We haven't seen the Buddha, so he still have faith in Buddha. But his kindness and patience he have to practice was with those people in his class, his monastery, who bullied him, put him down, called him names, and they ridiculed him, and they actually wanted to put him test that because they think he doesn't know anything, learn anything. They made him give a talk, and then to everybody's delight, he just gave these teachings. Because he was living through this practice. He believed every word what he wrote because he had to put his whole life online by practicing this. And that's why he's not a reincarnation of some lamas in 5th century, and then Tibetans that try to keep his legacy, his head, his dog, or his walking stick, and that kind of attachment. That's not Buddhism. That's a Tibetan kind of a cultural kind of a fixation about honoring some holy names of the past, and then think he or she is always reincarnated and that sort of stuff. Shantideva was a real simple Buddhist monk, and who everybody looked down upon. He wasn't a celebrated reincarnation of somebody, which India they've never talked about. Indian Buddhism never talked about. So it's totally a home invention of Tibetans. So that's why all the real all those high titles and people with those, put them through the test of being people calling them busuku. See how much they grow, if ever. No, it's easy to claim title, easy to think that you are high or something like that. But, if you really conquer your enemy, your emotions, your negativity, your weaknesses, your afflictions, then you are winning. To do that, you have to rub shoulders with the rough sentient beings, So it's very important to be able to work with all sentient beings, and don't complain. I can't work with him. He's bossy. I don't want to work him because he doesn't work this. Where you gonna find somebody who works so well with you? You don't have to practice any patience, any humanity, any tolerance. Yeah, it's like you're buying a barren land in like a desert and think you can grow there. Yeah. So you have to prepare the soil. You have to work with the land, and then try to grow. These days, a lot of agriculture scientists are learning to grow many things, even on rooftops or in hot houses and so on. So you can definitely make sure that you can grow things in that kind of environment when you understand what it takes to grow. So we will stop there tonight. There's a lot of pearls of wisdom of Shantideva. If you have had experience of being put down and bullied, or people criticize to you or talk behind your back, they may be difficult for your ego, but they are very good for you to, if you wanted to grow emotionally and spiritually, and then they become the cause of your spiritual emotional growth, and we need to know that. We need to learn technology. We are talking about what kind of skills, what kind of tools we have to grow food very productively, isn't it? But you need field. Without field, you can't grow any food. So therefore, we should be gentle with the difficult sentient beings, and we see them as a cause of our growth and excellent opportunity to exhaust their difficult sufferings and also repair our own karmic debts to others. When you do that, it's an amazing thing about the patience is it pacifies your enmity. It takes away. You have no enmity to those people, but you have patience. The patience has replaced your enmity, and so it becomes loving kindness, and then you can see their sorrow as objects of pity and compassion. Their suffering become cause of your compassion and patience. So sentient beings are most poignant cause of your growth and cause of your cultivation of any of the wholesome, high-sounding virtues. And Dharma practice is all about how your mind is transformed, how your mind is get well, how you change your attitude, shift the emotional tone, and free yourself of the dampness and weighty, sticky kind of negative emotions. How to wash them away, how to wash those greasy thoughts and kind of slimy feelings and emotions, and by rinsing yourself under the hot tap of your own emotions with the practice of patience and teaching that Shantideva so eloquently wrote. And this is why there is so much teaching. Even those people who don't believe in Buddha or Dharma or say so any religion, but they all have emotional problems. People are so hot-headed. They're so stressed by not being able to work with people, or someone's being so bossy, someone being so unreliable, and someone being so demanding, or so like that. Yes, sometimes maybe the thing you want to do has been a little bit so jeopardized, but through that, working with sentient beings, you actually learn a lot about how to conquer your own demons, and that conquest of your own demons is shanti. It's peace. Peace isn't some kind of destroying all the enemies. There are no enemies. Enemies is one's own enmity. One's own enmity, ill will, it makes people enemy. One doesn't have enmity, there's no enemy. It's just like it's like love. If you don't love somebody, there's no loved one. They're made to be loved one by you, and not because they want to be loved by you necessarily. They probably don't want to be loved by you. And so that's why we are the creator of our own enemy. So if you don't like enemy, don't have enmity. Plant, if you don't like cactus, don't plant cactus. If you want to plant mango, plant mango. So if enemy is not people, enemy is your ill will. Your ill will project and implicate the other for doing this and for doing that and for doing that. It's so obvious psychology. It's so obvious that the enemy is a result of our enmity and ill will and resentment. And when you drop the enmity to them, and then you develop loving kindness, respect, then there's no enemy. There's no enemy. It's totally transformed. So that's the lesson we have tonight. Thank you, everyone, for your deep interest and listening. Please share these topics if you are watching on Facebook or something. Don't just react, or don't just pass through, because these are the sort of thing you wish your mother heard, you wish your friend heard, you wish somebody else heard. You're not trying to make them Buddhist, but just such a useful thing to know, because so many people's difficulties are people in their lives, And you want them to help. You want them to be not so crook and miserable. But how are you going to tell them? If they learn, they get just like a small contact with the Dharma by seeing something that people shared, like practice of patience. Maybe they don't want to practice patience, but if they heard it, they might see, they realize it is actually getting rid of my own ill will. I thought you have to be nice to people and you have to put up with difficulties. No, it's not like that. You have to get rid of your own difficulties. So teachers point us what we are not doing right. And when people know that, they've been long wishing if somebody taught them how to do that, how to practice patience. Because wherever you go, they say zero tolerance. Nobody talks about the virtues of tolerance. They say we should practice no patience with here, nothing at all. When you live in a zero tolerance, zero tolerance kind of in a very, very impatient society, we have to promote the teachings of patience and peace. Practice peace, peace, yeah. This topic is peace, how to make peace. But peace is an absence of war. Peace is overcoming ill will. You have to do it. You have to make peace. That's why give peace a chance, they call it. If you give peace a chance, you are not going to do that. You are not going to cooperate. You're not going to be kind to yourself or to others, or you were trying to avoid. All of a sudden, you gave a chance. And it really made you alive, because then you're really worthy of feeding, you're worthy of washing, you're worthy of clothing yourself. Otherwise, no different than a cow, What's the purpose? Just eat more grains, eat more grass, and lie down, sleep, and get up again. Sure, I mean if that's what life is, you live like that. But we went to education, we went to school, and we went to university, all to conquer the ignorance, conquer the misunderstanding. We want to stop virus. We don't want to catch any disease, but yet we are holding and embracing ill will, and poor me, and hating things. That's not patience. So one has to learn how to unsit the ill will. And there are lots of people who have ill will without wanting them, and they just stuck with that over small issues, become big problems. And so these teachings are good to share and dedicate. So with this we conclude here, everyone. So I'll do the dedication merits. Please join your hands. Mades mere me overcome the diva menzenge omnes me I liberate from the ocean of Bodhisattva here in the Maya Dij whatever me obi bekanzen levas to the Mahayana teaching courage manju shinyo Hazama Drabadra de lava following of the example Aja de go de mere me de hexelem bodhijita tebe where na yedanza where it has been bomeyeding freely with the generation. Thank you, everyone.